Story number 1. In the wild Adirondack Mountains of New York, I embarked on a heart-touching journey to honor my grandmother. Graham. She always spoke of the Adira with a sparkle in her eye, as if sharing a treasured secret. For her, the mountains weren't just a place. They were a living friend she yearned to see again. After she passed away, it felt right to bring her back to the mountains she cherished, fueled by her contagious love for adventure. That summer, I packed her ashes and set out for New York to fulfill a solemn duty. Upon arriving in Keene Valley, I sought refuge in an old log cabin surrounded by the rustle of leaves and crisp morning air. The weight of my mission became intense, a promise to a grandmother whose memories painted the canvas of my life. In the following days, I immersed myself in hikes, following the trails Graham had once tread. Each step echoed with memories, the landscape recounting her tales of towering pines, chirping crickets, and rustling leaves. The mountains whispered her stories, strengthening my resolve as I delved deeper into the realm of the Adira. One hike led me to a clearing overlooking a secluded lake between the peaks, the very spot Graham spoke of for her ashes. As the sun dipped below the horizon, I scattered her remains, feeling a mix of emotions: loss, love, peace, and profound fulfillment. However, as I returned to the cabin, the atmosphere shifted. The forest's fresh scent turned musky, and an unease permeated the once silent symphony. A piercing cry shattered the tranquility, an unfamiliar sound that sent shivers down my spine, turning the beautiful landscape into something eerie. In the ensuing silence, a sense of being watched gripped me. I spun around, trying to pierce the twilight gloom, but all that met my eyes were elongating shadows under the moonlit sky. The forest felt different, and an undercurrent of fear settled in. A shocking discovery awaited me on the trail: an oddly twisted deer carcass, partially eaten and rotting. Confusion and instinctual fear gripped me as I stared at the gruesome scene. Movement in the tree line caught my attention, revealing a towering figure, almost 9 feet tall, an aged, deer-like creature with glowing yellow eyes. Frozen in place, I watched as the creature moved on, disappearing into the underbrush. Hurrying back to the cabin, I grappled with the horrifying encounter. Throughout the night, haunting cries echoed, a stark departure from the serene mountain sounds. Back at the cabin, I pondered the authenticity of the incident, questioning my memory. Yet the rooted horror and visceral reality of the encounter lingered. Despite the terror, the incident forged a deeper connection with Graham and her love for the mountains. Now, I carry the memory of that encounter, the haunting cries, the mysterious creature, and a profound love for the mountains. Gifts from my grandmother and the enigmatic Adira. Story number 2. In search of peace, I escaped my busy life and booked a quiet cabin in the Montana forest. The solitude and wilderness offered a refreshing break, complete with a warm fireplace and the company of my old Labrador, Toby. The initial days were perfect, filled with exploration and the calming touch of nature. But on the 4th night, tranquility turned into a spine-chilling experience. As I read by the fireplace, Toby, my loyal companion, grew uneasy, growling at something I couldn't see. He fixated on the window, sensing an unsettling presence. Though I thought it might be just nocturnal animals, an hour later, a haunting howl pierced the silence, an eerie, guttural sound that left Toby visibly terrified. Sensing something amiss, I put out the fire and secured the cabin. Climbing to the loft with Toby, I changed into my sleeping clothes, feeling an unexplainable vulnerability. The howl echoed again, accompanied by an unpleasant odor seeping through the wooden walls. Sleep eluded me as horrific growls echoed outside, getting closer. Distressing cries shattered the silence, signaling something terribly wrong. Despite my fear, I felt compelled to investigate, sensing that someone or something needed help. With courage and a torch, I descended the stairs with Toby by my side. What I saw from the window defied all expectations. A creature over 7 feet tall, covered in dark fur, standing on hind legs. Nightmarish features: a snout, exposed canines, and yellow eyes reflecting fear and confusion. The creature, a dogman, challenged my understanding of local folklore. Stunned, I debated whether to help or flee. The creature's eyes pleaded, torn between fear and a desperate need for understanding. Choosing caution, I silently retreated, picked up Toby, and drove away, forever changing my perception of Montana's woods. Months later, the encounter lingered in my thoughts, a plea for assistance denied. The once peaceful forest now held an undercurrent of unease, and every rustle hinted at hidden creatures. The experience taught me that bravery is tested by the unknown, leaving me to wonder if the dogman still roams the Montana woods, and what might have changed had I chosen to stay and help. Yet, some questions, I realize, are better left unanswered. Story number 3. In the vastness of the Rocky Mountains of Colorado. My story unfolded about 6 years ago, during the tail end of summer. Seeking solace and peace from a challenging life back east, I embarked on a solo journey into the mountains. The day was bright and sunny, the mountain peaks gleaming white, and the air incredibly fresh. The initial landscapes were breathtaking, and I set out with a light pack containing only trail mix, water, and a map. As I followed the well-worn trails, the sense of peace enveloped me. The hard climb, the burn in my legs, and the cool wind on my face became sources of joy. However, my curiosity led me off the established trails, and it was then that I noticed a disquieting change. The silence. It wasn't the peaceful kind. It felt different, and a creeping sensation settled at the back of my neck. Despite being in an open area, an unsettling feeling of being watched persisted. Attempting to shake off the unease, I continued, but the silence persisted, accompanied by an acrid odor reminiscent of spoiled meat and a damp, musty scent, covering my nose to avoid the stench. I reached a higher vantage point, hoping to spot something that would explain the eerie feeling. That's when I heard a distant but distinct knock, a sound that grew louder and more urgent. From the ridge, I saw a large, powerful silhouette moving swiftly through the woods. Fear rushed through me, overshadowing the majestic view. The creature was enormous, beyond any expectation. Despite my rational mind, I found myself following the trail it left behind, intrigued and unsettled. The creature's tracks were massive, unlike those of any known animal in the area. As I followed, the silence remained, and the only signs of reality were the distant knocks and the putrid smell in the air. A deep, resonating growl echoed through the trees, and I locked eyes with the creature, a massive figure, covered in brownish, red hair. Fear consumed me, but oddly, I was fascinated. After a moment of tense eye contact, the Sasquatch, for lack of a better term, bounded effortlessly up the mountain with a powerful grace. Its non-aggressive demeanor contradicted its monstrous appearance. As it vanished, leaving behind only tracks, I retreated to my campsite. The tranquility of my hike was shattered, and I spent a restless night, frequently waking to my heart racing in the stillness of the night and the moonlit mountainside. In the morning, I decided to cut my trip short, returning with a tale that I shared sparingly, mindful of potential skepticism. Over time, my fear transformed into wonder and a sense of luck for having witnessed something so elusive. The natural world holds countless mysteries, and the Rockies, with their scenic trails, hide secrets beyond imagination. To anyone planning a similar hike, tread lightly, stay aware, and remember, you're not the only one in the woods. Story number 4. A few years ago, I found myself in one of the most hauntingly beautiful locations on Earth. Point Reyes National Seashore in California. The early morning was devoid of sunlight. A thick fog had rolled in from the sea, casting a ghostly shade over the landscape. The fog's eerie embrace muffled sounds, creating a surreal stillness that surrounded me. Armed with my camera, I set out to capture the essence of the place. The climb to the lighthouse, comprised of 308 steps, led me to a vantage point against the vast backdrop of sea and fog. Every click of my camera seemed to be swallowed by the dense quiet. I aimed to contrast the lighthouse's sturdy presence with the engulfing, unpredictable fog. Amidst the fog's deceptive serenity, I felt an odd energy, a charge in the air that drew me further into the unknown. Shapes occasionally formed in the fog, spectral outlines that vanished as quickly as they appeared. I dismissed them as products of an overtaxed mind, trying to impose recognizable shapes on the vast expanse of fog. As I continued, the silence persisted, and a sense of being the sole witness to a world between reality and dream enveloped me. Then, emerging from the dense white sheet, I saw it. Large, almost human-like, but strikingly different. It took shape from a mere shadow, its form flickering as if struggling to materialize fully. The creature's eyes were fiery red, casting an eerie glow through the thick fog. It had no discernible mouth or visible nose, only those massive red eyes reflecting a keen intelligence that struck fear into my heart. Attached to a human-like but smoky gray body were alarmingly broad, leather wings unfolding in the fog. Perched atop the lighthouse, the Mothman's majesty and terror were almost hypnotic. As my camera focused on it, the creature spoke with a voice like a distant ocean rumble. Its cryptic warning echoed, "Beware the mirror when the moon is lost." Then, as abruptly as it appeared, it vanished back into the fog. The fog grew suffocating, leaving me in a state of horror and disbelief. I lingered in dreadful anticipation, but the Mothman didn't return. Only the monotonous sound of the sea and an eerie loneliness surrounded the lighthouse. Left with a cryptic warning, I continued to document the fog, engulfed lighthouse, but the thrill was gone, replaced by an unnamed dread and a mystery more captivating than the scene itself. The encounter with the Mothman sent me on a quest filled with mystery and unease. I delved into folklore, seeking answers to the ominous warnings and the creature's cryptic message. "Beware the mirror when the moon is lost" became a riddle I couldn't decipher. The encounter haunted me, blurring the lines between reality and the uncanny. Traveling to fog-laden corners of the world with just my camera, I recount that day with chills down my spine. The unease resurfaces whenever the moon disappears behind the clouds, a reminder of my encounter and the Mothman's cryptic message. As I traverse fog-laden landscapes, I remain on a quest for answers, prepared for the day when the creature might emerge again, and whatever calamity its arrival might portend. For now, all that remains is a haunting memory and an unsolved riddle. Story number 5. Birdwatching, for many, might seem mundane, but for me, it's a form of meditation. The anticipation of spotting a new bird, the quick cerulean flash of a bluebird darting through foliage, the silent glide of an owl cutting through the twilight. All of it thrills me. The vast green expanses of Congaree National Park in South Carolina provide the perfect backdrop. As long as I can remember, I've dreamed of ticking off a checklist of birds that call this park home. For my birthday, I treated myself to some time off and booked a cabin near the park. Armed with my binoculars and birdwatching journal, I set off on my personal expedition. The early morning sun filtered through the foliage, casting shadows around me. Making a slow, calculated path through the park, I spotted my first rarity, a yellow-crowned night heron. Capturing a photo, I felt a surge of excitement, hoping the dawn would reveal new species. Perched on a raised embankment, I watched birds peacefully flit by. A cardinal darted around, a flash of bright red against the green and brown backdrop. Adjusting my camera settings, I aimed to capture a vivid shot of the cardinal. I trekked deeper into the park, finding a secluded spot protected by towering trees. There, I set up my binoculars, notebook at the ready, and immersed myself in the symphony of bird calls. By mid-afternoon, the forest echoed with various bird sounds. But amidst the familiar, there was the unfamiliar. A strange clicking sound reached my ears. Rhythmic and quiet, unlike any bird call I knew. My curiosity piqued, and I moved toward the sound, ignoring the growing sense of unease. The normally peaceful park felt transformed, the cheerful chirping of birds falling noticeably silent. Arriving at a secluded spot, the clicking grew louder. In the shadows of a mammoth oak tree, I noticed movement in the underbrush. A deep sense of dread gripped me as I saw the source of the sound. Nestled among brambles, just a few feet away, was a creature unlike anything I'd ever seen in nature. Its long, bizarrely lean body, pale and almost skeletal, appeared human-like but was on all fours. The creature's arms and legs were arranged in a grotesque adaptation of a crawl. Its skin was skeletal, and where a mouth should have been, there was a large, dark hole. The creature's eyes, large and lifeless, bore into me, sending chills down my spine. In an abrupt and horrifying movement, the creature swiftly climbed up a tree, moving unlike any animal I'd seen before. A bone-chilling mix of human dexterity and animalistic agility. After it left, a heavy silence settled in, with only the memory of its clicking sound echoing in my ears. Frozen in place, I tried to process what I'd just seen. When I regained my senses, I dashed back to my cabin, blind to the myriad of birds I'd initially sought. The park, which I loved, now felt threatened by this menacing presence, filling me with fear. Yet deep inside, I also felt a spark of odd fascination. Despite being terrified, I was intrigued by the creature. The remainder of my stay was tinged with a sense of foreboding. The harmonious symphony of bird calls had turned into a sinister soundtrack. The charming thickets that were once potential hiding spots for birds now harbored the memory of the horrifying creature. The crawler had not reappeared, and for that I was thankful. Leaving the park, I felt a strange mix of relief and a peculiar loss. One thing's for sure though, my bird, watching trips had gained a new companion, an uninvited one. The dread, the thrill of the wild, the confrontation with the unknown, all dwarfed under the shadow of that menacing creature. It was no bird, but it was undeniably a part of the park's chorus now. Its eerie clicks became a haunting anthem, and as night fell, a new species indeed, one I hope to never encounter again. But such is nature, at times breathtakingly beautiful, at other times chillingly brutal.